What's happening in the real estate industry 10 years from now? What's your prediction?
I think we're all going to die.
Hey, it's Nate Disarro, and welcome to Titans of Industry, the podcast where I talk to industry leaders and innovators who are at the top of their game and leading the pack in their fields, uncovering some of the best stories in today's business landscape. In today's episode, I talk with Chase Rackley, a realtor and business consultant of the Rackley Team. His experience in marketing strategy and sales has launched a highly successful real estate business in just a few short years. Chase talks about how hearing a lot of no's inevitably leads to yeses. Also, invaluable lessons he's learned from mentors and friends, and how starring in funny music videos has become part of his brand. And now let's get to the episode. But before we do, it's important to know that whether you're a small business owner or the face of a multi-billion-dollar industry, your organization has a great story to tell, and Content Titan wants to help you tell it. We are a digital content creation powerhouse built for the 21st century, providing all-in creative, strategic, production, post-production, and distribution services for a 360-degree, 24/7 world. In our world, Titans are passionate, creative doers. They have the experience to take your project from start to finish, minimizing your involvement so you can focus on what matters most, running your business. So if you're ready to take your content strategy and production to the next level, our Titans are ready to help. Now here's my conversation with Chase Rackley.
All right, well, welcome, Chase.
Thanks
for being on the show.
Oh my gosh, I'm fired up to be here.
So let's just jump right in. I want you to start by telling me, who was Chase Rackley as a kid? What were the things that you enjoyed doing when you were a youngster?
I appreciate you to ask, and I probably wouldn't normally tell people this, but as a kid, I mean, some of my favorite things to do that I remember was ding-dong ditching, chenal circle, and hiding a camera across the street in the trees so I could film people's reactions as they came out looking for who was ringing the doorbell. And I would put the content together in a video and share it with the rest of the neighborhood kids. And that was like my first experience of like making a video and knocking on doors. And I feel like I basically do the same thing now. I'm, knocking on doors and trying to get people to come and let me sell their house.
Fair enough. The stakes have changed a little bit.
Stakes have changed.
It's a little less of a, you're just trying to get a rise out of people. Now you're actually trying to help people.
That's right. Yeah. Now we're trying to help people. But yeah, man, as a kid, I used to love, making videos and doing, projects for school. Like the opportunity to give a speech always pumped me up. In fact, there were a couple of classes where I really struggled. But then when the option came to maybe do a speech or a video presentation in lieu of a test, it was my time to shine. And it kind of rescued me when there were opportunities to show a little bit of creativity. And that's what I remember most as a kid, is just, really enjoying creative outlets, playing around with the neighborhood kids, ding-dong ditching, whatever, just with great friends.
So one of my favorite questions to ask Titans is, what was it that propelled you to enter into the industry you're in? Most people, the select few that kind of know their career path from age 2, which is very few people, I feel like, they kind of have it figured out and they just go that way. But for most of us, usually when we enter college, we don't really know what we want to do.
That's right.
And a lot of us exit college and still have no clue, but we now have a history degree or an art degree, and we've got to go make a living. Talk us through how you kind of got to that point of figuring out your career.
Yeah. So in college, I had someone reach out to me and say, hey, I need a website for this new restaurant that we're starting, and I want to pay you to help build this website. And I had never built a website in my life, but I thought, man, I bet I could find a good team of people on this campus to help me figure that out. And in that effort, I met, there's this guy named Nate, actually, was his name, and his passion was making websites. And so he was the first person I called, and through that friendship, I just kind of asked, like, man, could we help this client together? And could I have the opportunity to watch and study what you do on building this website? And because he was kind of an outcast socially, he spent so much time investing in how do I discover this client's needs and become really provide exactly what they need. Because I might not fit in, I want to make this business look so good and so that they fit in with their clients. And it was a really interesting experience connecting with him. And so through that relationship, I fell in love with marketing. How do I make a business look great? How do I make a product, something that people want to experience, and not just on a aesthetic level, but also on an understanding the code level, the behind the scenes. How do we set this up, and at the end of the day, that it's making money for the client? And so through that relationship, we started a small business. It was called Rackley Creative, and that was actually our real estate business became Rackley Creative's biggest client. But to not fast forward too fast through that, really, I went from the marketing business to the automotive industry, doing marketing for Crane Automotive. And that's when Roddy McCaskill came in to meet with me about buying a car. And I was just so impressed with him. I mean, he was just an incredible negotiator. And really, I just thought, man, this guy is impressive. And so I asked him, I said, Roddy, what do you do? And his answer, for whatever reason, really stuck with me. And he said, I sell homes. And his old country Southern accent, and flipped his business card to me in kind of a suave way that really stuck with me. And I said, wow, what is that like? And he just kind of told me about this industry of selling homes. And it's an incredible industry. And so crazy timing, the dealership I was serving ended up selling. And so there was a major shift at that corporation. And so in that season, I thought, well, I should now, if ever, now's the time to consider, if I was to tap into another industry, what would it be? And so I had the gracious support of my previous employer, who paid for me to go to Atlanta, Georgia, to take the Johnson O'Connor aptitude test. And anyone who's able to invest in that type of aptitude testing, I would strongly challenge to take advantage of the Johnson O'Connor aptitude test, or some sort of deep testing. I mean, it's crazy. Like, I walk in the door and they like throw balls at you and evaluate how you respond. When they, shake your hand, they evaluate how hard did you grip. They'll play two tones like beep, beep, and say, which one was a higher pitch? And you're like, oh my goodness. So it's a really deep, detailed aptitude test. And at the end of it, they said, we think your most profitable industry and most energizing industry that you would engage would likely be real estate. And I said, well, I'm all in, baby. Let's go.
So this was a scientific endeavor.
It was a scientific endeavor. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So I called Roddy and said, hey, I want to apply my marketing experience to your business. And he said, good news, I'm about to retire in about a year or two. I want to teach you everything I know. And he was so generous and taught me everything that I know. Roddy was a top 5 producer in the city of Little Rock for, he says 40, but provably 35 years in a row. And he taught me everything that I know.
That's awesome. Well, that's a great entry into a market, is by having somebody with that much experience, that sort of level of, I guess he would be kind of the predecessor to our Titan concept.
Absolutely.
So you come into an industry with a marketing background, and then you get, I guess, the appropriate licensing and training to become a real estate professional, and you start running with the ball, right? So, that's right. I mean, I'm assuming you didn't take much time to kind of get your feet wet.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it was really cool because Roddy did bless me with the opportunity to serve some of his clients that I absolutely did not deserve. Like, hey, Chase, here's a client that's called in, take them, find them a house. And, that definitely was a major blessing to have someone who really trusted me before I deserved it. And, also he was really wise to not just give me business. In fact, he even told me that the best way I could help you fail is by giving you business. The best way I can help you succeed is by helping you grow business and create business. So his challenge to me was, Chase, just make 20 calls a day. And I'm talking about connections. So I would probably make 50 to 70 calls to actually have a conversation with 20 people a day. That was my goal. I wasn't going to go home until I had 20 conversations a day. And I couldn't qualify it as a conversation unless I asked the question, who do you know who needs to buy a home or sell a home that I could call today?
I know a lot of people who either get into business for themselves or are working at a job and they just feel like, well, I'm not successful enough, or I'm not, growing fast enough, so this isn't the right opportunity. And a lot of times what it is they haven't done the right things. They haven't taken the right steps. They haven't worked hard enough. And they think that it's going to come to them easily. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's great advice that he gave you to not just give you business, because I've seen it time and time again that you even have a great mentor who wants to take you under their wing, but they give you too much. That's It's the same thing I have to be careful of with my kids, is not just giving them stuff, making them earn stuff, making them feel the importance of putting in the work and growing yourself so that you can grow your business.
Yeah, I love that. That's good.
So as you kind of continue to progress and move into growing your business, what were some of the things early on that you, and even tapping back to your childhood, but what are some of the things that kind of, you kind of now realize this was crucial, this was monumental in my early days in sort of forming a successful business?
Yeah, I think that it really helped that for whatever reason, I idolized Roddy. I thought of him as a father figure to me. And just a background on me, I kind of grew up with a double kill of two dads. However, neither of them really were like that super, my biological father wanted to be affectionate and present. However, he wasn't able to be because he left my mom. And so my stepfather was, he could not have been more generous and more faithful as stepping into that role. But it's a little different. Like, how do I love you as a son? And so in a weird way, I kind of grew up with a boss, someone who taught me like the value of, I'm seeing my biological father at the time making decisions that were like, okay, I don't want to end up like that, because it was leading to a position where he's not experiencing, this special relationship with the rest of our family. And then I'm seeing my new father, Larry, who is very successful in his business, very successful in his marriage and his, fatherhood of my other siblings. And so the biggest thing was that he was a solid believer. And so I'm seeing this value of like taking your roles and your responsibility and your systems as a family very seriously. And so in the same way, I kind of took that, I really just valued on a very deep level Roddy's leadership. So when he told me about his system, it wasn't just a game or an idea or a suggestion. It was, this is how you keep away from having a life that's going to miss out on great memories. And I feel like I should say that David, my biological father, has really stepped back into our life, and I'm so thankful for him, and he's doing a great job. I couldn't be more proud of him and the relationship we're building now together. But really, I think that Roddy had systems that I studied intimately and documented thoroughly. And in fact, I brought them with me right here. I started taking notes when I was studying under him, and it was at first a journal and then became a business plan. And it's really, it all comes down to making consistent moves in prospecting. I call it my G task. It's GTASC, and that's generate leads, train, appointments, servicing those leads, and negotiating contracts. If I'm not doing one of those 5 things, I'm probably wasting time. So I try to make sure that in my day, every day, I'm working on those 5 things as much as I possibly can.
Well, I think this is a crucial time to interject that, I've talked previously that I've been fortunate enough to have conversations with some incredible people. Yes. and titans of all different industries. And one of the things that is very consistent with all of them is exactly what you just said. You break it down into systems, you document, you create a note system that works for you, and you don't really deviate from that system. It's always crucial to reevaluate and see if that system needs to be changing and moving and adapting. But once you've got a system in place, that system is your lifeblood.
That's right.
And that's how you move forward. That's how, if you get outside the system, you have to recorrect and come back inside the system.
Absolutely.
And so that, for that reason alone, it's no question that you've seen now some tremendous success in your business. And I have to interject for people that don't know, anybody that hasn't seen you or doesn't know who you are, may not know how old you are. So can I ask?
Absolutely.
How old are you, Chase?
Yeah, I think I'm 28. Yeah, I'm about 80% sure. I could be 29. I really don't remember. It's been a wild 3 years. We've just been head down. I've had 3 babies in 3 years. We're building a house, our second house within that 3-year period. And, we've grown. I've personally sold about at least $75 million worth of real estate.
So 28 years old and really only been doing real estate for 3 years.
Right.
Essentially.
Well, I've been selling on my own for, after Roddy retired, it's probably been about 4 years. 3 or 4 years.
But we're not talking decades here.
Right. Oh, yeah.
That's incredible. So let's jump in now to the industry, right? So we're talking about the real estate industry. And obviously you've made some impressions in this market in Central Arkansas, which is where we're at. So talk to me a little bit about the history of kind of when you entered into the industry, where it was at, and sort of where it is now.
When I first entered, I think it was 2013, which was the kind of the butt end of a mini recession. And it was awesome because the biggest thing that I did was I was so nervous to call friends and family. And so to hit my 20 contacts, what I would do is I would call expired leads, people who are raising their hand trying to sell their house, but their contract expired with their last realtor. So they were on the market for probably 3 to 6 months and didn't sell. So I would call them and say, hey, I was curious if your house is still available. Why do you think it hasn't sold yet? Let's figure that out. So, that was kind of the beauty of starting in that season, is that it was a great way to build listings. And then, now we're actually on the move towards likely another recession. In fact, just within the past day or two, they've announced some news that suggests we'll likely see a similar, different in some ways, but a similar recession. So it's going to be a great time for people who are going to be able to dig into the hard systems of calling people that are expired. That's going to be, honestly, it'll be easier to get listings and harder to get homes sold. But at the end of the day, people are always going to be wanting to make moves. I think if you're faithful to do your G task, you really have nothing to worry about. People are always going to be ready to make a move, and they want to work with somebody that's going to make that move more profitable and more exciting and a better experience overall.
So the word recession and real estate in the same sentence is often scary for most people.
I'm already scared. I shouldn't have said it. I'm nervous I even mentioned it.
So, well, let's dig into that a little bit, because 2008, before you were really in the industry, I won't even ask what you were doing in 2008 because that's scary to think about. But
Yes.
When you think about recession and real estate, it's one of the biggest things most people are fearful of. My property value is going to tank, so I'm not going to sell, or I need to sell now and get out from under it before, how do you, as someone who's a self-proclaimed advocate for the buyer or seller, what do you say to them during those times? What's kind of the role of,
Yeah, that's a great question. And the good news is, if you're selling in a recession, you're likely buying in a recession. So in fact, it's actually not a bad time to upsize. If there's a recession, it's a great time to go ahead and get it sold and buy a bigger house. buy low, sell high. So it's, if you're buying and selling, the damage can often end up becoming somewhat of a wash, depending on a number of variables. So I would say don't be discouraged. The market's going to do what it's going to do. It's best to ride the wave and make sure you're working with somebody that's going to help you be as profitable as possible through that.
That's great. So I want to jump back into some of the things that again, real estate, there's a lot of agents out there. There's a lot of people who choose real estate as a profession. There's some people that do tremendous in it. They make a great living. They provide for their family. They have a great lifestyle. And then there's people that struggle really hard. Don't know how to get listings. Don't know how to service their clients well. And it sort of becomes this thing that they have to get out of. They have to go get a job somewhere else, even if they love the industry.
That's right.
So from your perspective, what are some of the characteristics, some of the things that kind of make you and make people great in this industry?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that question. People can be great in different ways in real estate. And just being a top 10 producer in Central Arkansas that's not the only metric for being a successful agent. I would say that there are plenty of other teammates that, like there's a guy in our office that I wouldn't want him to hear me say this, but I think of him as Eeyore. I mean, he's like so boring and so hard. I just wonder, like, how do you grow your business, dude? You are so like just funny. And so, however, he does good. He's faithful to his family. I look up to him and I try to learn a lot from him. And in fact, he and his family are heavily involved in RPAC, which is the Realtor Political Action Committee. And when it comes to economics and how do we make sure that our industry is doing well and growing, like he's a better person to talk to. And so I try to learn from him and I try to really study him and his best practices. But all to say, you don't have to be an extrovert to be successful. You don't have to do exactly as I've done. In fact, I would argue just be yourself, find who you are, know your story. Ideally, get a great mentor that can fine tune and tell you, hey, that's a great character element about yours. You should lean into that and really grow that gifting. Or, hey, that's something you probably shouldn't do as much. And that's the beauty of a great coach. And so, all to say, I think it's less about you need to have this characteristic or you need to have this attribute or this personality, and it's more about adapting your efforts to your aptitudes.
That's great. That sounds very scholarly.
Thank you.
I want to touch on this for a minute because you mentioned a couple of times, and just knowing you, extrovert.
I'm an extrovert. Woo! Let's go!
Explain a little bit about how you've proven to people maybe that you're okay being in the public spotlight and that you're not afraid of putting yourself out there.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's cool because it reminds me of how my biological father, David, who is really is charismatic and just great about connecting with people. He was a sales coach for the medical industry and just has done a lot in that realm. And he used to just challenge me. He would say, love the spotlight. All eyes on you. Engage, embrace that everyone look at me. And it was such a good challenge, and it kind of encouraged me because at first I thought, am I wrong for wanting all eyes on me? But it really all came from his challenge. I think it was one of my first interviews, and he's like, you need to go in there and be absolutely confident that you want all eyes on you. Watch me succeed. And that really challenged me to kind of realize it's okay to be who I am. I mean, this is very selfish, and I'm almost nervous to say it, but I love it. I want the camera on all the time. I perform better when I'm being watched, and when there's an audience. It's even kind of a joke at my gym. When they yell my name, I lift harder. And so the coach and the rest of the teammates that are lifting with me, they're like, go Chase. And they're not even watching me, but I think they are. And so I lift harder. And so, I don't even remember what the question was, but I just think it's good to say, it's okay to embrace who you are, even if it seems like, I really don't think that it's about hogging anything as much as that you want to use the gifting that God has given you to leverage that for blessing the people around you. And that's my goal.
Well, I think one of the reasons I bring that up is I think one of my first introductions to you was a video that I saw online somewhere, and it's you maybe doing a rap song or something.
Oh,
and
goodness.
you know, it's one of those things that you think of somebody trying to sell houses, and they're out there doing a rap with some buddies, and it's like,
Yes.
who does this?
That's right.
You know, but Chase does this, and it's worked for you, and it works incredibly well. It garners the attention that you're wanting, I'm assuming.
Yeah, Kristen Kennan, who is a business partner, she owns Realty Arkansas. She has been such a great partner on that, because it really thrives in that spotlight and loves making parody videos. And so together, we have loved making some crazy videos. You know, the millennial is the largest buying demographic. And if I'm completely honest, it is hard for me at times to release. I love making those videos, but it's like hard for me to release it because I get nervous. Like, what about that section of the demographic pool? Like, are they going to not love this? Are they going to think that's not professional? But at the end of the day, we're in a new world. Like, professional doesn't mean boring with a briefcase. Professional means personal and being true to who you are and producing powerful results. And that's what we do. And so being a silly, singing about how we sell homes for more money than the average realtor, or for faster than the average realtor, like it's all for fun. And it has been a great way to kind of celebrate the success that God's blessed us with and blessed our clients with in a way that's just shareable, enjoyable content. I want to make some more. We got to make some videos.
Well, listen, my company, Content Titan, as you well know, the number one thing I preach to customers and consumers and even some of the talks I give is it's all about relationships and authenticity. Are you doing or creating those two things? Because what we do is create points of engagement. We want to give the audience a place to engage. And if we're not being relational, if we're not being authentic during those points of engagement, then they don't care.
That's
They're moving
right.
on.
Yeah.
As fast as we can swipe up on our phones these days, if you don't give me a reason to stop and start to build that relationship and be authentic, be who you are. You said it just a second ago. Be who you are is what your biological father told you. And it's okay to do that. And I think a lot of times we feel like, well, I can't be that way because I'm not supposed to be that way. It's not the way my neighbor is. It's not the way my dad is. It's not the way my mom is. It's not the way my best friend is. So I can't do that. And we don't give ourselves permission to create goofy videos and put it out there. And then all of a sudden it's a big hit and it has however many thousands of views and everybody knows who you are. And next time they want to sell their house and they're thinking of who do I go to? Well, you know what? That was actually pretty entertaining. I think I'm going to call Chase.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're selling $75 million in real estate in 4 years. So it's, I think, something that people need to be okay with. And maybe you start small and you start just by doing something with your close family and only release it to your extended family.
I love it.
And then you start with the next step of close friends and sort of go from there. But I think a lot of people feel like, I'm not extroverted. I'm not the person who's supposed to be in front of the camera. I'm not supposed to put content out to the world. And it's okay to not be in the spotlight all the time if that's not who you're built to be. The key is, like you said, be who you are.
That's right.
And whoever you are, people are okay seeing that.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other things? I mean, are videos kind of the main way that you kind of put yourself out there and have fun? Or are there any other ways?
And speaking of like what we're doing to grow the business and the spotlight thing is that I would say the spotlight is probably 20% of it. You know, the things that I get to sing about are created in the 80% of the time where it's a closed door. I'm on my phone making calls and I'm swimming through no's to get to yeses. The success is not found in the spotlight. The spotlight is a celebration and it's a talking point. It gives me something to talk about when I do make those calls. And I don't know. I mean, honestly, it has happened. However, it was never truly the intention that someone would watch our video, that's the fun ones of the music videos, and say, I'm going to call Chase to sell my house. It's happened, but that was never really the goal. It was more about having fun as a team, celebrating, like I said, celebrating the success that God's blessed us and our clients with, and just having fun as a team, being who we are. It's just fun to be a little bit fun every once in a while.
Well, and again, I'm a huge proponent of stories. Storytelling is, I think, the crucial part of being human. No other living, breathing thing can tell stories, right? So stories to me are everything. And I was listening to somebody the other day that was saying they learn a new craft every year. Something physical that you can learn, do with your hands, woodworking or stained glass making or quilting, whatever it is. Nice. They set out every single year and they learn a new craft.
Yeah.
And somebody said, well, why do you do that? What's your motivation behind it? Are you trying to become an expert at it? Is it just for fun? And he said, well, really, more than anything, it becomes a story that whenever I go someplace and I see a stained glass window, I can talk about how that's made because I know how it was made. Or you see a quilt on a couch at a friend's house and you can talk about what goes into quilt making or whatever it is. And it's about the story. So they learn the craft in order to engage more dramatically in the story.
New hobby every year.
That's right.
New craft.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting that, again, storytelling is so much a part of who we are. It's our DNA. It's the only thing that sets it, not the only thing, but it's one of the major things that sets us apart cerebrally from any other living, breathing thing.
I think it set me apart in this industry in the sense that, just like you said, this market, this industry of real estate agents, it is saturated in quantity. However, it's not super saturated in quality, and people who are saying, this is all I do. I'm 100% focused on this. I'm specializing in one area or less than an area, but in one element of residential real estate, meaning luxury market or foreclosures or flip houses or property management. It is not super saturated in people who have dedicated an extreme focus to doing really well in the industry. And so I think having an understanding of my story and quite honestly, knowing the importance of the story, I made that very important to myself from the beginning. So that was part of documenting. It was, how can I make sure that I understand my story thoroughly so that I can tell my story? And so a lot of our time has been spent on personal development and really understanding, who am I? Why do I exist? What's the point? Why am I selling a house? Why am I even talking about real estate at all? Because if you don't understand the why, you're not going to be powerful with the what.
Simon Sinek right there. If you've ever read Simon Sinek, Start with Why. That's one of his famous books. And it's that exact mentality.
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing this? What am I doing? So let's shift gears just a little bit and talk about some of the technological advances that are affecting the real estate industry. Every industry has disruption with technology these days. I mean, the last 20 years have been so monumental in the way that industries have started to shift and change. And really for real estate since 2008, of course, everybody now is wondering, are we going to fall back into the same things we did before? There's new government regulations, but now there's significant technological advances in the real estate industry. And I'm curious how some of those, well, first of all, what are some of those in your opinion that are disrupting the industry, and how are real estate agents and professionals adapting to those changes?
Yeah, some of the technological advances I've seen most recently, the first one that comes to mind for some reason, we just opened up a property management division at Realty Arkansas. We're trying to do Rackley rentals. And we've had some success with some of our clients who are not able to afford the sale. Actually, they could afford it, but they could find out they could actually make more money selling it a year later and leasing it for a year. So we call that the Rackley rental program. So we'll get a tenant in there. They'll be there for a year to two, and we sell it, and they make a little bit more money. But in the rental market, they're starting to do rent auctions. And I found that pretty interesting. So people are auctioning. It's like you bid almost eBay style on how much you're willing to invest in this apartment or this house to live there. And it actually makes sense. Like someone is a doctor who's moving down and wants to live right next to his hospital is probably willing to pay twice as much as the average person who is going to rent out a 3-bed, 2-bath in that general area because it's a perfect fit for he and his family. So a bidding situation. So that's gonna change things a little bit on the property management side. The second thing, and truly probably the most disruptive in a way, if you can call it that, is flat fee brokerages. Flat fee brokerages. So the thing about the flat fee brokerage is, in fact, one of my good buddies, Matt Lamb, he's really good at this. He loves creating flat fee brokerages or just discount brokerages in general, and then kind of setting up their systems and getting them their kind of them started and then selling them. He's had some success in building and then selling brokerages. Backstory: he built and sold Realty Arkansas. And we were designed to be not a flat fee brokerage. We were designed to be, a luxury experience, a white glove service. And then he went from there to trying to create flat fee brokerages. So I'd love to go more into the backstory of that another time, as if I'll ever have the opportunity to come back here. I so wish. However,
we'll have you back.
Okay, yes, it's been recorded. So the thing about the flat fee brokerage, though, is that you're not getting the full service brokerage capacity of it just doesn't fund the ability to have a team that's going to be able to provide the level of service that most people need. So the concern is that, in fact, Oxford just did a study on this. It was actually really surprising that they said that there's a 90+% chance that realtors will be obsolete in 10 years, and due to artificial intelligence. And a lot of that makes sense in the sense that as transparency increases, the need for a mediator. That was one of the things I love about Roddy, is that he told me, you are a mediator. Don't back down. For whatever reason, there's this stigma of like, you don't want to be the middleman. But like Roddy was like, I'm the middleman, and I'm happy to create peace in this transaction and make it a smooth experience. So I loved that he was able to lean into that and not shy away. Well, the artificial intelligence is really able to eliminate the need for a lot of that middleman services. Things like, what is your house worth? Even showings, like it could be argued that, kind of like Rently right now is a way that you can go look at houses that you're wanting to rent, and you can actually sign up and basically be able to tour the property without having a realtor there. I think you have to like pay a fee to be able to do it, but yeah. So I mean, gosh, there's so much that's happening in the real estate industry, and it's hard to go into too much detail without being so speculative. And at the end of the day, I think people always want to deal with people, and people want to be, if I had to guess, and I feel like I'm like trying to be like the Simpsons where they always predict the future somehow, that's me right now. So I want to watch this back in 10 years and say, how right was I? But if I had to guess, I think that brokerages and teams like ours, we're going to be just fine. But the people who are not trying to create a white glove service or a luxury experience, the people who are just basically have their license and want to just make some money on the side, that it's going to be so much harder to survive with that, to even make enough money to keep your license, because you're going to have, at that level of service that you're providing, you're going to probably have to be at a price that doesn't make sense for you to stay in business, which is why most flat fee brokerages don't survive long, because it's not a long-term business model that traditionally has succeeded. However, maybe with the artificial intelligence, it might grow. But I think for people who don't want to do their own taxes, don't want to cut their own hair, don't want to mow their own lawn, they're always going to want to hire a real estate professional to make sure that they are winning in their real estate transaction. That's where I come in to make sure they win.
That's a good point. I think, a lot of times in life we outsource the things that are inconvenient to us, that are too difficult to learn, that are too difficult for us to do ourselves.
And they should.
And we choose to do the things that are easy.
That's right.
We want to do the things that are easy. And so oftentimes we will spend money where it makes sense to spend money because it adds convenience. And convenience a lot of times equals happiness, right? They say convenience and relationships are the two things that lead to happiness. And and it's not money. It's just money can get us there, right? That's
yeah.
the mechanism. That's the tool. So
I like that.
now it's interesting though, because in the car buying world, now we have apps we can buy cars on. Now we can go to carousel style vending machines.
You're going there.
Carvana, right? Where I don't have to go deal with a car salesman. I can
Oh, God forbid.
jump in and immediately, by the way, we can thank Rob and our producer for pointing this one out. But,
shoot. Yes.
But, you know, to your point though, organizations like yours are going to be just fine because the service, the level of detail that you can put into the home buying experience, people are always going to want that. That's never going to go away. But for people that see it as transactional and see it, how is that going to affect maybe the next tier down? How do you see the industry as a whole? Right now, I don't know what the number of agents in the country is, but however many real estate agents there is, do you predict potentially a drop off
it's
in
going
number
to
of
tank
agents?
them. Oh, yeah. Good luck. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. That's awful. That's awful. Rewind. The barrier of entry will increase, which has been a desire for a lot of the top producers for years. It was something that, honestly, even I shouldn't say top producer. I don't mean just financially top. People who take the job seriously. It's important that the barrier of entry to become a real estate agent or a broker becomes harder. I mean, gosh, it shouldn't be as easy as it is to become a licensed real estate agent. And you know, there's part of me that's thankful, but more of me is eager for us to, as an industry, increase the barrier to entry and make it a bigger deal, a higher standard of ethics, a higher standard of performance, a higher level of work required to provide that service to the client that is required to say, yes, hire me to sell your home. And speaking of selling, I think that you will continue to see the real estate. If I had to guess, I think that the real estate professionals will likely become more and more valuable to sellers and potentially less and less necessary for the people who just see it as a transaction. They don't care if they get the best deal. They don't care if they're, getting a fair treatment from like the proper title company, or they're getting the right lender, or getting a good deal on their moving expense, or even, all the title fees, whatever. Like that might not be as important to them. They just want to get the best deal on convenience. For instance, Zillow Offers. That's doing a lot of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Zillow Offers, I studied this, to be transparent, for the first time really today, because I knew we were going to talk about this, because I've actually been curious about this. Like, what is the iBuying experience going to look like? And I've been a little bit worried about it. Like, what is this going to look like? How am I going to manage this? Because obviously we're going to do it, because I'm going to ride the wave. Whatever the wave is, I'm going to be riding it.
Yeah. And
I'm going to be able to, I want to make sure we're providing a great service to the client. Regardless, whatever the technology is, we want to be on the forefront of it. So what I'm finding is the Zillow Offers program costs the client, the seller, 7.5%.
Wow.
On average.
That's above typical.
It's above. Yeah. So and
convenience. There's your convenience.
For
right?
Convenience. They use it for convenience.
Yeah.
And
because you can get out of your house whenever you want.
Get out of your house in a few days. Mm-hmm. And Roddy McCaskill had the guaranteed sale program, which is the original Zillow Offers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've actually been doing this already, not knowing that was like, when people were talking about iBuying, I had no idea that that's really what they meant. It's just a guaranteed sale at a certain price, often less than what you could sell it for if I actually brought it to the market. So our team right now, it's not all that uncommon that we're selling a house for more than it can appraise, which is not what you want to do, honestly. You want to sell it at the peak, and most it can possibly appraise. That's the goal. Yeah. But we're, just this week we've had one that came back, hey, it appraised for $3,000 less. So, that's kind of the goal, is to sell it right at the most it can appraise for. And that's not going to happen with an iBuy experience. Mm-hmm. You're going to get a conservative deal, which for some people, that's what they want.
Sure.
They want to be
time
gone.
To move on. I got to get out.
And that's perfectly great. And that's probably, that's exciting for them to have that opportunity.
Do you anticipate, we talked about potential for recession coming up. Will this iBuying and Zillow offers opportunity, could that help or hurt the industry?
Yeah, it's hard to know because I don't know how the algorithms are working first of all, we don't really have that happening in Little Rock right now. The Zillow offers is not operating here.
Major markets, right?
Yeah, I think I think they bought like 700 homes this past year.
It's
like
crazy.
It's crazy. They've been buying a lot, but we haven't seen it in Little Rock. But so I definitely can't attest to, like, if they were buying in Little Rock, I could pull up on the statistical map. I could say, hey, we probably, not even just our team, but just like this in a properly marketed property could have sold for X dollars. It's sold for Y dollars. And so over all the hundreds of homes that sold Zillow Offer Style or Redfin or whatever the iBuyer program or Offer Pad, I think is whatever the other one is, those have sold for X dollars versus Y. And so what we're seeing is, yes, it's sold for 3% less than probably they could have made with having a licensed realtor represent them.
So I'm curious too. Forbes put an article out earlier this year about several different sort of disruptions in the industry. And one of the things that they talk about, and if Forbes is talking about it, then we better pay attention, right?
I love Forbes.
Blockchain in real estate.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah. I'd really love to like interview someone who really understands that thoroughly. I have a very limited understanding of blockchain. From all I know, if I had to talk about it, I think of it as like torrenting. I don't know if you've ever like torn. Probably shouldn't talk about this, but I used to love torrenting, which is where you basically can download, I just have to confess this in order to be able to explain how I understand it. But like when I first got into the marketing business, obviously it was a little low on cash. So I torrented Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Premiere and Adobe Final Cut or Final Cut Pro. And so in order to do that, what you do is you get these programs that cost $500 or $600 or, obviously some expense, even if it's just $1. But what you can do is you can get it for free by downloading pieces of the file from different sources, and it comes in as a torrented file, which is a bunch of little sections, and then you combine these little files into one folder and then you upload through your platform, and it runs the software. So from what I understand about blockchain is that it is basically torrenting the real estate index. It's taking pieces of data, things like there was a survey on this property, there was a recent sale of this price, there was a recent sale of this price, it was there was an insurance claim of this, there was another insurance claim of that. Based on that, this is probably a fair purchase price, press here to buy it. Or press here to get a new, a new survey or a new, I have no idea.
Yeah.
That's all I know. It's torrenting the real estate index.
Well, I think part of the objective here is to, communicate the fact that things are changing rapidly. There's all kinds of new technology. There's new innovations, AI and machine learning. Zillow and organizations like Zillow are doing what Airbnb did to the hotel industry and what Uber did to the taxi industry. And, but the thing is those industries are now stabilized. They're figuring out how to exist with each other and coexist in those same spaces. And I think my assumption is that's going to continue to happen within the real estate industry.
100%.
So there's a lot of sort of debate nowadays, especially with the millennial generation and younger people, about the buying versus renting. My dad, if you didn't buy your house, you were wasting money.
Yeah, that's right.
Now there's all kinds of research and everything else comes out that's saying, well, buying might not be the best idea. Renting may be a better idea,
That's right.
especially given your stage of life and where you're at. And,
Absolutely.
And not paying the interest on a house, which is often as much as the house itself, And so what's your take on that? And obviously you've opened a management company. So
I'm so glad you asked. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of renting, which is what you don't expect to hear from a realtor.
It's a little counterintuitive coming from
It is.
Yeah. So
I'm a huge fan of it. And really, I want to say this, that my job, even though I'm paid by it, is not to sell a house, really. It's to consult on making you make a wise move. A moment that I realized I was in the right business, in the right industry for me, there was a pastor who called me probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And he said, "Hey, I'm got an awesome opportunity to go become the new head pastor of this church in Dallas. It's an incredible opportunity. They're offering to pay X dollars for me to move. I'm so excited. I just need you to come sell my house." I said, "Absolutely, can't wait." Came over, per normal, we did a thorough broker price opinion. At the time, I couldn't call it that, a market analysis on the property, and told him, "Hey, this is what the fair purchase price for your house is. This is what you would net once we go to the closing table. This at this price would be a high five moment at the closing table. Let me know. If this works, let's do the deal." Man, that's about $10,000 too low. I can't afford that, even with the support. And in that moment, him saying, "You know what? I'm not going to take that pastoral role. I just can't take that much of a hit. The financial overall deal didn't make sense for his family." And I left that meeting with the same sense of joy that I get at a closing table. And the feeling of a normal experience might have been, "Oh, he wants me to sell his house. Perfect. I'll talk him into signing the listing agreement, get the sign in the yard. He'll be surprised or slapped with at the closing table potentially, or even after he gets the offer, that, man, he goes through all this work and realizes that the total net proceeds is way less than what it would." But instead, it's like, my job is not to sell. It's to guide people in the process of making a move. And I really did. I felt energized and like I did my job, and it was just as successful and exciting as if we were high-fiving at the closing table. And that was a moment for me. And so in the same way, I have no intention of telling someone they should buy a house if they need to rent a house. I'm renting a house personally. We built our last house. We sold it. And so we were like, man, gosh, what are we going to do? And so we decided, let's build again. And so instead of doing what you'd probably think normal and buying another house, we decided, let's rent. Let's rent. So we're renting a house right now, and it's been awesome. I mean, it's been really a great, golly, no maintenance. We call when the toaster oven doesn't work. She's like, "That's an appliance that you put on the counter." I'm like, but I want a toaster strudel. Come fix it. No, we don't have toaster strudels, but that's the idea.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really interesting just take and concept on it. I mean, there's definitely days, weeks, months that I wish I was renting my house, because I would love to call somebody to come fix the air conditioner that, by the way, can't be fixed by maintenance. It has to be replaced.
That's right.
And so there's $4,000 and all these things that
I have an idea on that, by the way. I can actually help you with that. There's a home warranty plan I can hook you up with. It'll save you some money.
Oh, trust me. I'm the kind of guy I got it the first year we moved in, and I was like, we're not going to need it. So we cancel, and then you don't think about it.
Yes.
But, I think it's just a valid conversation point these days is buying versus renting. And the fact that we used to think, growing up for me, the American dream is to own your own home and to move in that first time and feel like this is it. We did it. And now you realize, and I'm not talking anybody out of buying a home. I think there's often, it's a great investment, a great opportunity. And for certain people's lifestyle, that's what you want. That's what you need. But I think it's opened up the conversation that it's actually okay to rent a home or a condo or whatever you want to, and you're not throwing money away.
That's right.
Because that was the mentality that I kind of walked into adulthood with.
Yeah.
Was if you're renting, you're throwing money away.
Yeah. And you're not. And here's why. If you're going to live somewhere for less than really probably 3 years at the minimum, you're probably not going to make money selling it. Arkansas is one of the most stable, consistent markets. I love Arkansas. It is a beautiful market to be in. Quite honestly, for someone like me who's just constantly eager to be one of the, on the cutting edge and trying to figure out what can we do to be at the leader role of our market with technology and whatever, we're so spoiled. I can just watch the agents in Austin, Texas, in Los Angeles, even New York, and I can just study them and apply some of the things that they're doing on our scale. And it's really, I genuinely don't feel like I'm all that creative. I'm just a doer. Like, I just try to do the things I see that other people do well. I just try to do it in my own way. And in the same way, you know, we as a city, Little Rock, we are so good about learning from other cities. You know, last meeting we get together with for like the Go Green Little Rock planning stuff with the mayor. You know, he was talking about how we were learning from the city of Boston. And they're starting to do like green rooftops, and I don't know if you've noticed, but we're starting to do like more greenery on our rooftop. Like, I just love that our city is learning from other bigger cities that might have a little bit more of a volatile market, where Little Rock, we're so relatively consistent and safe, and it's a beautiful place to live.
So we're coming up on sort of the end of our time, and I want to jump into a couple things. One,
halfway there, got it. Here we go.
We've talked a lot about things you do that not everybody does. You're a doer. I mean, that first and foremost is something that I talk to a lot of people, and they're afraid to reveal secrets about their business, or they don't want to talk through certain things because they think somebody's going to steal it and they're going to go do it.
Yeah.
The problem is 99% of the people aren't going to do anything.
It took me a while to realize that. I used to try and keep it all secret. That's why I printed off my business plan for you, Nate. I brought it.
I've been thinking about getting into the real estate business, so I'm going to take that.
You can literally take it and take over my business. It is so transparent. I mean, it's really that simple. It really is. It's so just about being consistent and committed and faithful to just follow through. Like, do what you say you're going to do. I had a guy that got into the business about the same time as I did. In fact, he was one of my first additions to the original OG Rackley team, and he lasted less than a month. And it was hard because I liked the guy and I really enjoyed working with him, but he didn't do simply the things that he said he would do. Typically, most importantly, for the client. Like, it wasn't like he told me. Like, he would tell the client, "Hey, yeah, I'll be out there with our video and our camera, our videography and our drone. You know, we'll be there tomorrow." And he like wouldn't show up. And it was like, dude, we can't play like that. And just like half of the battle is just like showing up, do what you say you're going to do. Like, either promise less or do, what you promise. And so, just show up, do what you say you're going to do, be committed, do your G task. It's really, honestly, the business is not that complicated. I think if you have integrity, if you have commitment, if you have passion, you don't even always have to have passion. Like my Eeyore friend, you can just show up and you'll still probably sell about 10 million a year.
It's crazy. So we've kind of talked about this, but in your mind, the people that you have the opportunity to mentor and the people that have mentored you, we've talked about your friend Roddy. What does it take to be a titan of real estate?
Gorgeous. I think it takes integrity, because that was the thing I saw Roddy do well that really stuck with me most, is in moments that he could have taken advantage, or even particularly a moment stands out where he, in order to get a triple stack deal, which is where the buyer who was buying his listing, the buyer of that property, it was contingent upon him selling his house, and the house that he was buying was contingent upon that purchase of his house, which is really not very common that you would have a triple stack deal. And it's kind of a crazy story, and to spare from all the time of the details, basically it's crazy, but he said, I need each person to give me $1,000 more of commission. Like, this is crazy. I wish I need to go into the detail. I'm not, but I should, to be able to make it make sense. But he basically said that. He said, I need more commission from each person. And he was going to basically personally pay for the appropriate repairs to make sure each deal got done. And it was crazy because like he had a deal to be able to get that at a better price. It's kind of a long story, but basically every client knew his reputation enough to say, okay, here's an extra $1,000 to an agent that's not even representing me in this transaction. And they made it work, and he got the deal done. And that was a special moment. In fact, Keller Williams, when I was there, they had me come and share about this to the entire brokerage because I was so impacted by it. It had gone around, like Chase has been talking about this integrity. Like, what does integrity look like as a top producer? Because quite honestly, in the wonderful wise words of my friend Rebecca Folks, she says, it's lonely at the top. It's lonely at the top. So you don't have many people vouching for you. And so it was kind of exciting for people to hear about, someone's vouching for Roddy about his integrity. Cause you get a lot of haters when you're a top seller. And so I'm vouching, I'm saying, dude, it was so inspiring to see his integrity. So I got to share the story of how Roddy said, hey, pay me extra. I'm going to get these deals done for everybody. And he did it. People trusted him. And that was a moment for me that said, I want to lead with integrity. So our Rackley rule, we have 15 Rackley rules. And our Rackley rule number 1 is prize integrity over profit.
That's powerful.
I think if you stay true to that, continuing to prize integrity over profit, keeping people above all else, you're going to win.
Wow. Well, it is no surprise in my mind that you are a titan of the real estate industry. So I want to go through a couple of rapid fire questions. We'll
Beautiful.
wrap up our time here.
Okay.
Just whatever comes to mind, quick answer. So what single resource do you get the most valuable industry info from?
Inman News.
Say that again?
Inman.
Inman.
My best friend George Kress, he married Jana Inman. They're not related. But
There you go.
Inman News.
There you go. Inman News.
It's really good. It's a great place. You have to pay for it, but it's a great way to get realtor insight.
Yeah. George Kress. Titan
Kress.
of
Rigs.
Caterpillar and
Yes,
outdoor.
you know
Oh,
George.
yeah.
Yes. Let's get him on here.
That's right. So what part of your daily routine are you unwilling to give up?
Prospecting.
What was the last book you read?
I'm currently reading Sacred Marriage by a guy named Gary. And I call it my carousel. At all times, I have 3 books that I keep on just on tap. And so Sacred Marriage, and then I've got The Slight Edge and The Go-Giver. Those are the 3 I'm trying to knock out.
What's happening in the real estate industry 10 years from now? What's your prediction?
I think we're all going to die. Yeah, I think that artificial intelligence, if I had to guess, I think artificial intelligence will allow for there to be likely more need for a listing specialist, but less need for a buyer representative. However, I always believe people will still potentially need the buyer agent to just make sure that there's that extra party vouching for their best interest. So there's not a dual agency. Dual agency in a perfect world is perfectly fine because you would know that the agent has the best integrity to say, I'm creating a win-win. I'm not secretly only helping this guy. So in a perfect world, which quite honestly is not this world, a dual agency is completely fine every time. And so if I had to guess, I think in 10 years, people will be less likely to pay buyer agent commissions, but will happily pay realtor or listing commissions. Just like every business is happy to have a marketing department or a marketing director or even salespeople. Obviously you're going to want to have those people representing you. In the same way, people are going to always have people wanting to represent and sell their product, their house. I think, though, having a buyer agent might become less and less, potentially, might become less and less someone that you reach out to. It's just hard to know because as a luxury experience, I think it'll be somewhat consistent with the way it is now. But in the middle kind of transactional based, probably see a little bit less, especially from the investors. For investors, I really imagine there will be less buyer agents, probably just going straight to the iBuying.
Yeah. So what about the industry makes you just cringe? What do you hate? What doesn't work well in your mind? What do you wake up every day and say, I wish this didn't exist in the real estate industry?
Oh man, I'm trying not to say names. Yeah.
So just people in general. wish people didn't have to be involved so much.
Gosh, I mean, shoot. Yeah, I would say it's a little too common that some agents' egos get in the way of doing a good deal. And yeah, so that kind of makes me cringe in the sense that sometimes the realtor can just get in the way of actually trying to help their client. Like they take personal vendettas, or for instance, like they'll try to negotiate not having to let the fridge convey, like they're all about it. Like, no, the client would never do it. And then the client doesn't care.
Yeah.
Take the fridge. Like, I didn't want to have to pay to move it anyway. But
lose a deal over it.
Right. But the realtor will go to bat so aggressively just because they want to try and gosh, you can't hate them for it. Like, you always want to know that you've done your absolute best to give the best to your client. But there's certain times that it's just kind of like, man, that was more of your ego than it was your actual desire to sell or serve the client.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think any industry is, immune to the ego of certain people blowing up deals and ruining the aspect for it.
Luckily, we have great people in this industry. Our market, Lirock, honestly, I can say this genuinely. I am so honored and quite honestly feel undeserving to be in the top 10 of Central Arkansas. And I'm just so thankful to be able to say, like, that I even do the same thing as Brandy Harp. That I get to say I'm also a realtor like Casey Jones. Like, it is such an honor to say, yeah, my biggest competitor is Jennifer Atkins. Like, those are people who I love. I mean, and it really wasn't until probably about this time last year that I realized there's plenty of business to go around. I'm going to keep my secrets. Now it's like, I can tell all the secrets. There's only a few doers. Yeah.
And you kind of want to play with them. You want to have the competitive spirit with them.
And I want
Makes
to
it
have
more fun.
Yeah. And really it's been such a blessing. We've got, Bryce Ramey, Ramsey Sheffield, Ryan Stevens, Stephanie Caldwell, Drew Files, Regina Ott, just some incredible teammates that have been a major blessing to our business, not just as producers, but as integritous people that love people well. And if I had to be completely honest, I would say they're better realtors than me. They're just not better marketers than me. Mm-hmm. And because of my gifting in marketing, I'm going to get them business, and that's going to be the best way to serve my clients.
That's good. All right. Last question. What about your industry makes you excited to wake up every day, be better than you were yesterday?
Yeah, the people. And
so the people is both sides.
It's both. It's absolutely both. The best and worst part about real estate, the people. And yeah, thankfully, it's 99% of the time, it's the best people. I get to work with the best people. Selfishly, I made it very important to myself to just pick the people who I just wanted to hang out with all the time. And they happen to be my teammates, and they're now very successful realtors.
That's awesome. All right, Chase, where can people find you if they have questions, if they want to sell their house? Where can people get a hold of you?
ChaseRackley.com, RackleyTeam.com, RealtyBro.com, whatever, Facebook.com/Rackley Realty, whatever. Just, call me, 501-519-4889. Cell phones out there.
There we go.
Let's go.
Well, there you go. The master marketer, the titan of real estate, Chase Rackley. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Nate, and thank you, Robin. Excited to be here. Excited to come back to my guaranteed next episode. Let's go! All right! Party!
If you liked this episode of Titans of Industry, head to contenttitan.co/podcast for more episodes, or subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. Thanks for listening.